I never imagined my life would turn out this messed up. My family always said graduating from university would save me. If you have a diploma, you'll never fall, they used to say. But no one told me I'd lose both my family and my future in a single night. A car accident changed everything. That day, I didn't just bury my mom and dad. I buried my past, my roots. My relatives paid for the hospital bills and asked, "Are you okay?" a couple of times. Then everyone went back to their own lives. I was left alone between four walls, surrounded by insurance papers and debt letters. The only thing university gave me was a pile of loans on my back, without a decent job to pay them off. Long story short, I've been working at a fast food restaurant for about a year and a half. I'm a woman in my mid-20s, but most of the time I feel old, exhausted, and burnt out. It's like the smell of frying oil has seeped into my hair and the smell of the uniform into my skin. I've seen some pretty disgusting things in this life, but what I'm about to tell you is too much, even for me. Because this isn't just a story about a bad job. It's about the night I almost became dinner. Since my first day at the restaurant, there was one woman who always felt off to me, the owner. I'll call her Emily. Emily was middle-aged. She wore her hair in a different but equally terrible style every day. Sometimes a half bun, sometimes a puffy ponytail. Always messy, always unsettling. She almost never took over the register. She didn't seem to like the kitchen much either. Most of the time, she stayed in her office at the end of the narrow hallway behind the storage rooms. The door was usually slightly open, but the inside was always dim. You could never really see what she was doing. She didn't talk to employees in front of others. When she had her eye on someone, she'd quietly say their name and tell them, "Come to my office." Most of the people who got called into that room never came back to work. Until then, I thought it was just about a bad boss, a boring workplace, and a high employee turnover rate. I wish that's all it had been. I had noticed she mostly messed with the male employees. Officially, they were recorded as quit suddenly. One day they were there, the next day their name was wiped from the schedule. No one dared to ask directly, but among ourselves, we'd joke. "She's probably hitting on the guys. They get creeped out and leave. Turns out, you should be careful what you joke about." I learned that the hard way. That night, I was on the late shift. I was working with Anna. She was a few years younger than me, energetic, always trying to stay positive. She'd often lean on the kitchen counter and say, "This place is actually an easy job, and the pay isn't bad. I still don't get why everyone keeps quitting." I'd shrug and say, "Maybe the problem isn't us. Who knows?" When we arrived to take over the evening shift, the earlier crew was getting ready to leave, and Anna found a phone in the kitchen. It was on the floor, wedged between the counters. She picked it up and said, "I think someone dropped their phone." She went to catch the others before they left. I was turning off the fryers and wiping down the counters. The hot smell of oil mixed with the sharp smell of dishwater. Just then, Emily walked in. From the sound of her footsteps, I could tell she was tense even before she entered. Her eyes were scanning the place like a mad woman. "What happened?" I asked, just to be polite, but I immediately wished I'd kept my mouth shut. She looked at me like she'd hated me for years. Through gritted teeth, she said, "Where's my phone? What did you do to my phone?" Her steps grew faster toward me, as if she was accusing me of stealing it. I was about to say "I," when Anna appeared from near the register, holding a phone. "Here, you left it by the till," she said. Emily's face changed in an instant. The hateful, cold stare melted into a sticky smile. It looked like a mask that didn't belong on her face. "Thank you," she said, trying to sound softer. "You two get back to work." Then she took the phone, turned around, and headed down the hallway to her office as usual. A sharp little knot of unease formed in my chest. When I asked Anna what happened, was there something weird on her phone? Her face tensed for a second. She avoided my eyes. "No, there was nothing," she said, shutting the topic down. But from her tone, I could tell she was hiding something. Hours passed. The restaurant was almost completely empty. The neon sign outside reflected off the windows, and combined with the silence inside, it made me feel like I was on a movie set. I went to the storage room to do inventory for closing. I had to check the freezer stocks. As I entered the storage, I left the back door slightly open. Cool night air slid inside. I'll be out in a few minutes anyway, I thought, and forgot to close it. I walked between the shelves, checking items off the list. The hum of the freezer was a constant background noise. About half an hour had passed when, suddenly, everything went quiet. The freezer went silent. At the same time, the fluorescent lights on the ceiling flickered once, then went out completely. Darkness fell on me like a blanket. I thought the power had gone out. Instinctively, my hand went to my phone. With trembling fingers, I turned on the screen and switched on the flashlight. A narrow beam of light slid across the concrete floor. I still hadn't noticed that the back door was open. Cold air continued to flow in quietly. I thought I should go to the register and check the breaker, and headed out of the storage toward the hallway. When I reached the middle of the hallway, I lifted the light and saw Emily. She was just standing there in the darkness, completely silent. When the beam hit her face, I noticed her pupils barely moved. She took a few steps towards me. "Anna quit," she said, in a tone that didn't seem to belong to this world. She complained about the hours and left suddenly. I was about to say, no, Anna wouldn't do that, but she cut me off. In a soft but empty voice, she said, "You've been working a lot lately, too." She put her hand on my shoulder. It was colder than it should have been. "Go home. I'll handle the rest. I don't want to lose you." She tried to smile, but the muscles around her lips looked unfamiliar with that expression. My stomach turned. I just nodded and walked quickly toward the register. It didn't make sense for Anna to suddenly quit. Just a few hours earlier, she'd said, "Easy job, good money." Still, I stayed quiet. As I approached the register, the light from my phone drifted from the counter to the floor, and out of the corner of my eye I saw a dark stain. Dark red, though I refused to be sure. I couldn't bring myself to shine the flashlight directly at it. I felt like an invisible gaze was resting on me. Emily might be watching me, I thought. And once again, my instincts were right. As I hurried past the register, she called out behind me, "Are you okay?" There was a fake concern in her voice. I didn't stop. As I turned my head slightly, I just muttered, "I'm fine." In that moment, she said something else behind me. The words were muffled but chilling. "You liking the dark?" She didn't finish, or maybe I didn't hear the rest. I'd started to tremble. I headed toward the front door, pretending I was leaving, but only took a brief look at the empty street outside. Then I made my decision. Something was very wrong. I took out my phone. I opened the emergency call screen and typed in 911, but didn't call yet. I started walking toward the back of the restaurant, to the storage entrance. My heart felt tight in my chest. With every step, my uniform clung to my back with sweat. My plan was simple. If I saw something truly wrong, I'd run out through the back door. I'd left it open. That might be my only exit. When I stepped into the storage room, I didn't dare turn on the flashlight. The faint light seeping in from the front and from the slightly open back door was just enough to outline the floor. Hugging the side walls, hiding in the shadows of the shelves, I moved forward slowly. I felt like even my breathing would give me away. Just then, I heard fast footsteps coming from the hallway. Emily's heels echoed on the concrete. A few seconds later, she entered the storage room and headed straight for the back door. She slammed it shut. The metallic sound cut into me like a knife. Then she started screaming. She hit the shelves, bumped into the walls, even struck herself. Why did you look?" she shouted. Her voice was cracking, almost close to crying, but there wasn't a hint of remorse in it. In that moment, my fear turned into pure panic. This wasn't about a weird boss anymore. This had become about survival. I looked at my phone screen. 911 was still there. I took a deep breath and hit call. But to keep any sound from giving me away, I immediately put the phone on silent and slipped it into my pocket. No matter what happens, at least someone will know something's wrong, I thought. Emily staggered toward the side where her office was, screaming to herself, "Did you have to look? Why did you look?" From her words, it wasn't hard to guess that someone had seen something. One thought hit me like ice. Anna had found her phone. A freezing chill spread through me. The one inside. "Is it Anna?" I whispered to myself. I crept to the gap of the door leading into the hallway. My knees were shaking. I peered through the narrow opening. The room was dim, but what I saw there is something I'll never forget as long as I live. Anna was lying on her back on the floor in front of the desk. She had her hands up over her face, trying to shield herself. Emily was hunched over her, hitting her again and again. From the rhythm of her fists and feet, I could tell this had been going on for a while. Anna was sobbing, begging. I didn't see anything. I swear I didn't see anything. But Emily didn't listen. If anything, she seemed to want Anna to have seen something. Her blows slowed, and she leaned down over Anna's face. She paused for a moment, then ran her tongue over the blood on Anna's skin. I wanted to shut my eyes, but I couldn't. I was frozen in horror. A voice inside me said, "If you stay, you're both going to die." I quietly pulled back. I had to return to the storage room and escape through the back door. The police were on their way, I was sure of it. At the very least, they must have heard my breathing and the noise in the background. I knew I couldn't save Anna in that moment, but if I survived, I could tell them everything. As I hurried toward the storage room, my foot caught on a box between the shelves. I fell hard onto the concrete. My phone thudded against my leg, making a dull noise. Then I heard a scream I'll never forget. It wasn't fully human or fully animal. It was something in between, raw and deranged. Emily's voice filled the hallway. "Who's there?" Anna started screaming too. "Don't! Please!" It was impossible to hide now. I scrambled to my feet like someone with a badly twisted ankle and started running. I rushed into the storage room. I headed for the back door. Only one thing was in my mind. Get out, get out, get out. When I reached the door, I slammed the handle down with all my strength. It didn't move. I tried again. Still nothing. This door was never locked. It was always an emergency exit that opened from the inside. But right then, it felt like it had been welded to the wall. Just then, the ceiling lights flicked back on. The hum of the freezer returned. The storage room was flooded with cold white light. I was panting. When I turned around, I saw Emily. She was standing a few meters away from the door, holding a knife. Her eyes weren't literally blood. I'm not going to exaggerate, but there was a hunger in her gaze that I'd never seen in any human being. A chase began between the shelves. I zigzagged through the aisles while she patiently tried to cut me off. Every now and then I heard a metallic sound. The knife was hitting shelves or metal cans. "Just calmly come here," she shouted. "We can fix everything." Her voice sounded like someone trying to imitate a mother's tenderness, but I could feel the rage and hunger beneath it. I, on the other hand, was shouting toward my phone, "Help me! Please help me!" The phone in my pocket was on silent, but I kept yelling anyway, as if someone could hear me. For a split second, I glanced back. As Emily rushed forward, her foot caught on a box on the floor and she crashed down hard. The knife flew out of her hand. That single second was my only chance. I darted out from between the shelves and ran toward the front, where the registers were. My heart was pounding so fast I thought my chest would burst. As I passed the hallway, the office door was open. I caught a glimpse of Anna. She was still moving, still alive. I had to fight myself not to look her in the eye. I wanted to reach out, to drag her away, but I knew, if I slowed down, neither of us was getting out. I tore my gaze away and ran for the front door. The moment I reached the front door, I saw the pale glow of the street lamp through the thick glass. Just as I reached for the handle, a sharp pain exploded in my back. Emily had stabbed me. My breath caught. My knees buckled and I collapsed to the floor. Everything felt like it had slipped into slow motion. I was shouting toward the phone in my pocket, "Help, please." The words barely made it out of my mouth. Emily was standing over me. I was about to feel the cold metal of the knife again when gunshots rang out. 1, 2, 3. The glass door shattered. Emily's body collapsed onto me with all its weight, my eyes fixed on the ceiling light. I noticed a small insect circling the bulb. Then everything went black. I woke up in the hospital. White, stained ceiling panels above me, the smell of antibiotics all around. My body burned, especially in my back and abdomen. The nurses told me I'd had surgery, that I'd been stabbed twice, once in the back and once in the abdomen right before the police came in. "You're lucky," they said. And all I could think was, if this is luck, what does bad luck look like? A few days later, the police came. I told them everything about that night, over and over again. I tried to describe every detail I could. Then it was their turn. They told me Anna was alive. My throat tightened. I tried to hold back my tears, but I couldn't. At least one of us had made it out of that night. But then they told me what they'd found in her office. Emily wasn't just weird, they said. She was a full-blown cannibal. There was a large freezer in her room. When they opened it, they found cut-up remains belonging to at least 4 different men. All of them were undocumented immigrants who had entered the US illegally, people who were hard to trace, which meant no one had gone looking when they disappeared. They'd also found videos on Emily's computer showing what she'd done to those people. The police hesitated to go into detail, but from what they said, I gathered this much. She'd been friendly with them at first, offered relationships, gained their trust. Then, at the right moment, she'd knocked them out, and you can guess the rest. I couldn't listen any further. My stomach turned. It's been 2 months since the incident. I still have nightmares. I still hear the cold light of the restaurant and Emily's footsteps in my ears at night. But I'm alive. I've started working at another restaurant. I'm deeper in debt, yes. I still have stitches on my body, yes. But at least I'm learning to see life a little differently now. I really was lucky, because in that storage room, that night, I could have been dinner.